Yeah, very good. Scopey Zach Bailey from Channel 9 reporting that Mitch Moses will be sidelined for 6 weeks, ruling him out of Origin 3 and in the NRL until round 21. That makes it very hard for the Parramatta Eels. He missed the first 6 games, only played 8 games last year and a total of 14 games since the start of last year. What do you do for your Parramatta?
Yeah, not easily replaced because, considering Origin, and he's going to be a huge loss for New South Wales.
Of course.
I know Jerome's going to step in, and
Yep.
we'll speak to Frank about that soon, I'm sure. But geez, I feel sorry for my ex-Eels. They were playing well, like they were putting their hands up, mate.
Yep.
Like they were losing on points in boxing terms. They
Yes.
weren't getting knocked out.
Exactly.
At the start of the year, they had a couple of big losses. They were knockouts. They signed Dylan Walker the week before Mitch Moses arrived.
Yep.
Then they finally got Zach and Mitch back together, and the form has just been so good. And you can see that there are so many young players, so they're really going to miss Mitchie. And he's a huge out for both, but probably a bigger out for Parramatta at this point, or where Parramatta are at currently, Shug.
Now, this guy here is an absolute doyen. Icon, slides in amongst the rugby league community, largely unnoticed, but let me tell you, those who know rugby league, they certainly know this man. We speak of Frank Ponissi, the general manager of football at the Melbourne Storm, and he is the manager there also at the New South Wales Blues. G'day, Frank.
Hello, Joel. I'll have to get you as my agent, I think, mate.
Happy to do that, Frank. Mate, I'll be backing you as a horse. Don't you worry about that, mate. How's the camp been there, literally in the Blue Mountains?
Yeah, we're actually just come down to Olympic Park as we just jumped off the bus 10 minutes ago. We're staying over here tonight before we fly to Perth tomorrow. Besides the injury to Mitch Moses, it's been a really good week. We've got much better weather this time up there, and the boys have trained really well, and they're in a good mindset and relaxed, but certainly focused for next Wednesday night.
Yeah, Frankie, Justin Horrow here, mate, and we'll talk a little bit about the Blues, but I want to talk about the opposition a little bit. The skipper, Cam Munster. I know he's on the opposition, mate, but considering your relationship at club level, you must be super proud of the 5'8".
Yeah, very proud, Justin. I mean, obviously, had a lot to do with Cameron since he arrived to Melbourne, a year out of school there way back in 2014. He's been wonderful for our football club, and he's had his challenges, which has been well documented, as we all know. But that's what probably makes me prouder. He's come back from a few of those setbacks and a few of those challenges, and to captain his state, I just think it's a wonderful achievement for him and his family.
Mate, you've been in. I know Bally's a part of the New South Wales setup this year. You've done the last couple of years. I know him well. He's a larrikin. What's he like during this period for you back at Clubland when in between with him, Harry, Xavier, and Trent Liero making his debut this year, and looks like he's going to start for him as well. What are the boys back like around Clubland when they in between games with you, Frankie?
Pretty good, Justin. I look pretty respectful, and I think probably before the series start, there's more banter then. Then when the series goes on, there's always going to be a loser and there's going to be a winner. So there's an enormous amount of respect between games. So no doubt at the end of the series it will start again, but generally very good. I mean, the boys, what they are very good at when they do come back, they totally switch on onto Storm and switch away from state allegiance. And it's the same when they go to Queensland, it'll be the other way around. And so, yeah, they're terrific at doing that.
We're chatting with Frank Ponissi, who is, a big part of the Blues' plans and a massive part of the Melbourne Storm system as well. Now, Frank, clearly if you've got Munster signed, you've got Harry Grant signed, you've got Coates signed, the list goes on, Liero, you've got a massive rap on these guys. Most people think New South Wales are home when it comes to this series, but I dare say for yourself and Craig and others who intimately know these guys, the journey is still a long one ahead. Is that fair to say?
Oh, absolutely. It is. I mean, the jersey itself, the maroon jersey, has proven over time. And also when the Blues have been down 1-0, as we were this time last year, exact same game as the desperations, the urgency of the team that's down 1-0 is strong and it's desperate. So, we have to match that desperation, that urgency, and what I've seen this week very comfortable in that the players want to do something pretty special this year and wrap up the series in Perth. And there's absolutely no way in the world we're going to underestimate any Queensland side, but especially some of the names you've just mentioned before and lots of others as well.
Yeah, back to a key position for you guys, Frankie. Not ideal to lose a guy like Mitch Moses, a week out from Origin or under a week out. But what a replacement in Jerome Luai, mate.
Yeah, it is, Justin. I mean, firstly, for Mitch, really disappointed. I mean, as soon as it happened, you've been around players and you were on yourself. He knew straight away that he was gone. We didn't need to be told by the medical staff. Just his body language, just even at the other end of the field, you could see that he'd done something fairly major and he was going to be out. So it was just really disappointing. I mean, he just played the one game with Nathan Cleary, and that combination was just coming together so well. I mean, the two class halfbacks, the best kickers in the competition. They just had their first game together, and this one was only going to get better again this particular game, but it wasn't to be. So, but as you said, you couldn't get a better replacement in terms of Jerome Luai for lots of reasons. He was there last year in the series. He played with that whole left side for the three games, and of course, the Penrith connection with Nathan Cleary and Dylan Edwards and Yowie in the middle. It was a very easy replacement to bring in. Felt for Matt Burton because obviously he's been playing really well as number 6 for the Bulldogs, and he's just getting better and better. So it was disappointing for Burto, but given what I said before, the combinations built last year in Origin in the team and his Penrith combination over the last 4 years, where they've done something pretty special, winning 4 premierships in a row. It was just an easy decision to make, and also losing Mitch, a disappointment. It was a great replacement, as you said.
Yeah, you really feel for Matty Burton, don't you, Frank? He's almost a bit of a victim. It feels like from the outside looking in, he's a bit of a victim for his own versatility, because he's such a great either bench player or 18th man like he is now, where you bring in Jerome, he's got that combination, and if anything was to go wrong in any way, Matty can cover so many positions, and I'm not saying that's the only reason you've picked Jerome, but you really feel for Matty Burton, mate.
Oh, we definitely thought about it. I mean, Laurie canvassed the coaches straight after training, and it was certainly discussed about putting Burto straight in, but it was the other factors just completely outweighed it. But we wouldn't have gone wrong either with Matt Burton if Jerome wasn't available, because as you said, he's getting really better and better as a number 6. But his versatility just makes it so special to have been a squad like this and to be an 18th man, which he probably getting sick of doing, I'd imagine. But one thing about him, just the last 24 hours since he found out that Jerome was going to come over the top of him, you wouldn't know. He's just it's totally for the team. He's selfless. He's obviously disappointed and hurting inside, but he's certainly not showing it around the group.
Hey Frank, just relating to like you're very, very entrenched at the Melbourne Storm, as is Craig Bellamy, obviously the pair of you. How hard is it when you're sort of trying to plot a game plan and some of your stars are in the other side?
Yeah, it is. But the thing about it, Joel, they've played that many times against those players, whether it's Cameron Munster, Harry Grant, both at club level and Origin level. And they've got coaches. We've got Dean Young from St George and Matty King from the Roosters and Brett White from the Gold Coast. Boyd Courtney's on the staff as well as Laurie. And of course, a lot of our players have played with the Munsters and the Harry Grants at Australian level, for a number of tests. So there's not really a massive amount that we could bring that they don't know about those players. And, clubs week to week do so much work on the opposition, and so sometimes we actually pick up a bit of stuff on our own players who's been in camp. And I'm sure there's one or two things, Craig has spoken about, but generally speaking, there's not a massive amount that the players and the coaches don't know about each other's players.
On your own team, Frank, Storm and Gaz has texted this through. Hey, guys, question for Frank. How is Warbrick tracking with his concussion? He wants to get an update on him. So he's been out for some time now, Will Warbrick, who was a great find for you guys. How's he doing, Frank?
Much better, Joel. He was certainly couldn't do anything at all for a long period of time. That's one of the issues when you're suffering from concussion, that you just can't train at all. So he's back training, not with the team at this stage, but not far away. Medical staff are reluctant at this stage to give a date, but I think it'll be sooner rather than later. And he'll obviously need to get back into full training first and train for a little while to get his fitness going, and then he'll more than likely play 1 or 2 games in either New South Wales or Q Cup, one of our feeder teams, and then he'll be considered after that. So hopefully it's not too long, but he's certainly on the right track at this stage.
Mitch Barnett, poor bugger. I mean, he went from the high of the big winner State of Origin. Final question for you, Frank, is Stefano Utukamanu, who you know intimately through the Melbourne Storm, he comes into the side. What do we expect from Stefano?
Yeah, well, firstly, Mitch is a huge loss back on and off the field. Last year he was part of the series. He only made his debut in the last game, but just even the first two games, he brought that much energy and excitement and noise to the group. He was fabulous to have around the group, and when he made his debut, he did a great job. And he's gone another level. His performance in game one was phenomenal. Probably he did a lot of things that we've shown this week that he picked up, just little effort areas that are really important in Origin. That he's going to be sorely missed in that area, but Stefano deserves his opportunity. Both, he's been terrific for us at the Storm this year, and also he was part of game one, and he saw what was required to be in this current Blues squad, and he handled himself really well. So again, a bit like the Jerome one, it was an easy decision when Mitch was unavailable. We brought Stefano straight in. So he's a completely different player to Mitch, and we don't expect him to be the same as Mitch, but he'll certainly be doing a lot of the effort things and a lot of those things that people don't see in the game as well as his powerful runs, which he's noted for.
Good on you, Frank. Frank Ponissi, General Manager of Football at the Melbourne Storm, and basically running the ship there in the New South Wales camp with Craig Bellamy, Laurie Daly, the coach. And Frank, we wish you and the team all the very best.
Thanks, Joel. Thanks, Justin.
Michael Darby, the Sharkies very, very wobbly at the start of the contest, but they don't draw pictures on the premiership ladder. They come away with a much-needed 2 competition points. Scopey, when you think about this, hammered by the Roosters, come out, Warriors beat them. They desperately needed that.
Shug, I've seen someone put out stats recently, maybe a couple of weeks ago, about if you had 10 of the best,
$10
and gambling responsibly, of course, on all the underdogs this year, then you'd be, I think you're travelling. I think you're up about 500 on the year, something ridiculous like that.
You are, exactly.
Imagine if live bet $10 on the team that's just losing at halftime. I feel like it happens 2 or 3 times a week, and not just down by 2, not down by like 12. Last night was 12 points. The Knights, Manly. That was 16. The week before.
They went the early boo, didn't they?
They did.
They went the early boo last night too. That's the early crow is powerful, folks. Let me tell you that. That's when you.
They're booing at
early boo. The early boo's the new go. Early boo is the new go. So it's 2 from 2, the early boo. If your team, even if they're winning, just boo them. I reckon that's what you need to do. 1300 01 1170. What that means, the Sharkies find themselves in 5th position. What about this? The Storm have already had 3 buys.
Yeah, 3 Marcus.
And Raiders 1 Marcus.
The Raiders are travelling.
They are.
The Raiders are travelling.
They're
the team. I know they're currently sitting behind the Dogs on 4 and against. So the Bulldogs will get an opportunity this weekend. But they're sitting in front with the game to play for the Bulldogs, and if they're able to get the victory against South on Sunday. But 3 buys, and the first of their 3 is this weekend. So that's already been accounted for on the ladder. They're a tough read at the moment, the Sharks. Like, I know it's impressive the way they come back, but I expected them to just really dominate during this period, and last week was underwhelming. I know the Warriors were great. No, taking nothing away from the Warriors, but Shark Stadium, full deck of cards. The week before, 2 weeks previous to that, they get beat up by the Rooster Rookies.
What do they need to do?
I've said this now for a couple of years. I think they need to add something through the middle. Camican is their skipper. And he's the toiler, and he's as tough as nails. But they've got no creativity in the lock position. Like, none of their front rowers are even the James Graham type. You know how James Graham used to be.
So who suits that jumper for you?
So they've no one at the moment. So I've tossed up this. At the start of the year, I'd like to see them shift Talakai to the edge, Teague Wilton to the middle.
Right.
But if they don't want to move Teague Wilton off the edge, because no one in their forward pack currently, the way it is, sort of stands out as that ball playing link player. They've got 2 brothers in New South Wales Cup, the Pudu brothers, Hohepa.
One's a half, isn't he?
One's a half, one's a lock.
I
think he could provide, at least just take a little bit of pressure off Braden Trindle and Nico Hines. I've been saying that for a while. Fitzy's, he's adamant. He must be adamant that he wants the ball in the hands of both Nico and Trindle as much as possible. And obviously, then off the back of that, Brayley's able to have some joy, and he played well yesterday as well. But I feel like all the teams, at least if they don't have a starter and a premier player in your Isaiah Yo's or your Cam Murray's or your Victor Radley's, because Victor can play like that. You at least have a Dylan Walker coming off the bench.
Yep.
A guy who can play that role off the bench. And, the Sharks don't have either.
I kind of agree with that, And just on Brayley, my observation was, I reckon he ran last night more than he has this year. And I reckon the reason was that a young whippersnapper who'd left the Sharks turned up to their home ground last week, Sam Healy, and he just kept running. And he got all this lavish praise around him. And I reckon that inspired him to start running a bit more. He looked good. He looks good when he runs the ball, Brayley. He looks very, very good. I agree with that. I do agree with the fact that, would you consider even Nico at 13?
Yeah, that was...
Or Atkinson.
Yeah, so, it was... I'd like Atkinson off the bench.
Yep.
He's another option.
But when he plays, they seem to win. Like, do you remember when they went to the Melbourne Storm?
Yes.
Very few teams could do this. There was no Trindle, there was no Nico. He went down there in the halves
with McInnes,
with a hybrid McInnes and Brayley.
Yeah,
right. Won the game.
Yeah, he's the player. I think we had a chat to him either on Crunch Time or did we chat to him in the Shell about 3 or 4 weeks ago, or was it?
Michelle.
It might have been. Oh yeah. Wasn't sure if it was Crunch Time or the Michelle, but he's a player. He got sort of moved back to 18th man last night. Every time he gets on the field, I know he's a smaller body, but it's Dylan Walker's a small. He's not your biggest. He's not your traditional forward. The game's going away from that. Kurt Mann.
Yep.
Bailey Hayward. Bulldogs got 3 of them.
Yeah. That's a good observation. See, so go back to when South played Canterbury and Canterbury won 32-0. Front rowers that day were Sean Kepi and Totola. Big, cumbersome in many ways pack. They got flogged 32 blocks. Since then, South have run with a very agile pack. They are a big side, Cronulla.
Kalamatangi to the middle. Hubner getting the start and playing bigger minutes.
Jai Arrow up front.
Yeah, Jai, yep.
So they are a big side. Anyway, we'll see how this plays out. The good news for Cronulla fans, you've got a lot of time to work it out, but you need to work it out. 1300 01 1170. Just on, and I do feel for Kyle Flanagan and Shane Flanagan. I think Kyle's a very good player. But you do put yourself under more scrutiny, and particularly when most people who have been involved in sport have been impacted by perceived or real nepotism, right? I don't think the Clearys are to blame for this, by the way, because they're so good. But you had Nathan Cleary and Ivan Cleary, and that's kind of given permission to other teams to do the same thing. I think it's unprecedented levels where we've got a first-grade coach, and in their squad, it's a child. You've got the Flanagans.
Yep.
You've got Jed Stewart and Ricky Stewart.
Yep.
You had the Walters crew.
Yep.
Kevy.
Brad and Jake Arthur.
You had Brad and Jake Arthur.
And even Maddie.
And Maddie Arthur.
Maddie coming through.
Right.
And
I'm sure I've missed somebody else. But it feels as though we've had unprecedented levels of... I think it puts a lot of... It's very rare to have a Nathan Cleary, right? Very, very rare. It puts a lot of pressure on both you as the coach and on the playing group
100%.
and on the player themselves.
Yeah. I would not want to do it if I was, there's so many pros to it. Don't get me wrong. Imagine if you're able to replicate what Nathan and Ivan have done.
Yep.
Win, not multiple, just win one competition with you. It would be the best feeling ever.
He gave his son a Clive Churchill. They said, Ivan, can you present it? He gave his son a Clive, but I think that's opened the door, and I actually think and in many cases the father is or has been a champion player. It puts a lot of pressure on the kid.
Yeah, they're the outliers.
Yeah.
The Clearys are the outliers. I'm trying to think of some other good father and son combinations. And
I'm sure I've missed.
John Lang and Martin Lang, remember?
Yeah.
Different circumstances, different positions. That's another example.
But I think particularly when it's a try-scoring or playmaking position.
For sure.
Whereas Marty Lang... He's just going to make every side anyway. He's going to hit his 20 carries.
Yeah, make his tackles.
I don't think John Lang would have ever encountered any of the pressure that some of these other coaches may.
Agreed. Oh, and also, the level of inconsistency, you can't knock Marty Lang for that as well. Imagine if he was a journeyman front row or whatever, and he's not making his tackles and not getting in there taking his hit-ups. So it still does, nowhere near the pressure. I'm with you, mate. I watch the Dragons all the time. I think Kyle's one of the most improved players in the last couple of years. But every time I watch him and he makes an error, I think of it straight away.
Yep.
Subconsciously, I'm not even subconsciously, I think, he's going to get rissoled by his fan base here.
But also
a missed kick or a missed opportunity, a missed pass, whatever it may be. So the pressure is immense for both of them.
Yep, but also too, say Lockie Ilias, right? His family are naturally, because this is what happens, I've seen it a million times, they're naturally going to compare themselves and say, why is Lockie out and why is Kyle in? You know, and this is not a Kyle versus Lockie thing. This is not a Matt Arthur versus whoever thing. This is any child versus any other kid or dad not named Ivan Cleary and Nathan Cleary.
Happens heaps at the junior levels,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's so many times you
Mate, we've seen it the last week.
Yeah.
And you just got to suck it up. Like
Yeah.
it just is what it is. 1300 01 1170, text 0457 736 736. In many cases, I think it's actually unfair on the child where they are more harshly criticised than what they should be. I think those kids, Billy Walters, when Kevy went, I thought, geez, he'd be a good signing for someone else. He's a 40-20 merchant. He clearly would be great for the club. Those sorts of things. But anyway, I have been a little bit...
with Billy too, just before we move off Billy, do you think it's not like it's fully removed now from Billy because of the circumstances as well? So even though Kev's no longer there, he hasn't escaped that criticism because Madge has come in, so people start hammering Billy saying, oh, he's been dropped now because his dad was coaching. Now he's not getting the start.
Either way,
he's in a really tough position now post Kevy.
Yep,
and that's just because he was coached by Kevin, started all those games, and again, a really improved player in the last couple of years. Before he'd got to Broncos, he hadn't quite cemented his spot at the Tigers. He was in and out of first grade, so he now feels. He's still burdened by the pressure, I feel like. It feels like he has to play a monster game to be promoted, not in-house by Madge, but just the pressure that's associated with that from the fans.
Craig Fitzgibbon's got a young son who's an absolute gun. I think it'd be in Craig's best interest. There's 17 or 18 other clubs. Just let him go and make his own career, which Craig may be thinking himself anyway. Doesn't need me to tell him what to do. Great coach. He'll win a premiership one day. Here's what he had to say on the difference of their team last night in the first half and the second half.
You might think I'm mad when I say this. I didn't think we were going that bad in the first half. There's parts of our play that we wanted to display tonight. Now take the scoreline out of it. We weren't searching for a scoreline. We were searching for some things we were looking at. And obviously it stings a bit when the scoreline says 18-6 for sure. But we were really clear on not getting away from what we thought we wanted to do tonight and play our way. And then it's really simple. We just kept doing it. And it worked, so that was the most pleasing bit, I reckon.
There you go. Thoughts there, Scopey?
Yeah, we've got a text coming through. Who's that from, Matt? Scope, I've got so many questions over Fitzy. The press conference last night concerned me, too, that he thought we were still good. Is that how? Does he go into more depth there?
That's it.
That's it. Yeah, did you think they were good in the first half? I didn't. I thought they were off the mark. I thought they missed the jump. I was, a little disappointed at the Sharks, but they did rally. They've got the result, and
you know what? Sometimes, Scope,
that's all that matters.
They got a cheap try. It looked to be a cheap try. Hiroti scored very early, and then that was declined. Then Trindle scored very early, so it looked very easy. Everyone was tipping them. They're going to win comfortably. They were into the breeze. They were into a big breeze.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, that played a part because once they got momentum, it didn't even look like Dragons were any chance of winning it back.
Second half, they were never in threat, were they? Never, ever, ever in threat. Shane Flanagan, the opposing coach, the only coach to win with the Cronulla Sharks in their history. He would have been revved up for this game. Here's what he had to say with dealing with the Sharks kicking game.
You know, you've got to be better defensively, so to make them kick long. And they didn't kick long. They were all contested kicks, and we didn't handle the kicks. You know, in the end, they scored a try for scrum, but that was post to knock on from us from a kick, and then they scored another try from a kick where Sloan made an error there. So, you know, there's 12 points. There's the game. So off 2 kicks. So there's not a lot of difference, and they tried hard. They tried really hard, but just a few little areas that we need to tidy up.
Yep, there you go. Where are we at with the Dragons for 2025, Scope?
Similar to 2024.
Can they make the finals or not?
Yeah, they can. They're sort of in that log jam of how I feel about maybe 7 or 8 teams.
Yep.
They could finish anywhere from 7th to 15th.
Yep.
I reckon. Is that 7? Does that? Yep.
Yeah, okay. Seagull Pete's loving the show. He said, "You two are biased flogs."
Oh,
And then goes on. Timmy's having his say.
what are we biased about?
Oh, look, you know the funny thing is, coaches who have been speaking about with their children, they'd be listening to this, hating this, and people who are listening think we're being biased to those coaches. So you can't win with any of this.
He's talking about the Kyle situation. Mate, I could care less what happens. There's no bias. I don't go for the Dragons. I don't. It doesn't bother me what happens with Kyle or Shane.
No.
That's just. I'm just calling it how we see it. So, what's it? Seagull Pete.
Yeah.
Come on, mate.
Okay, let's start with this. Titans taking on the Seagulls. Now, many in this team you know intimately well. Justin the Scope Horro, Friday tonight, 8 o'clock, Cbus rather, not SBS, Cbus Super Stadium. You've got this situation where in 2011, Des Hasler would be the coach. He goes with two very young halves. Daly Cherry Evans in his first ever year. Kieran Foran with very limited football under his belt. They guide Manly to a premiership in 2011. Desi the coach. Desi is coaching one of those. Kieran Foran taking on Manly's star halfback who's leaving the club, who's been dropped from Queensland. Big game.
Yeah, huge game considering DCE too and being the disappointment of not playing in Origin 2. You say, I know this team intimately, and I know this team well. Desi knows them better than what I do. He knows the club better, way better than what I do, and so does Foz. So I'm expecting points in this game, Sugar.
Yeah, I think so.
Desi's, he'd be feeling the pinch as well. We look at the record now compared to Justin Holbrook as well, and when Justin Holbrook finished up. So he's got a huge back end of the season. We're at the halfway point.
Yep.
I think he's the run home.
Yep.
It will be important for Desi, and he needs to sort of find a way to get a result against his team where he won a premiership for him playing, or a team where he won premierships coaching. Yep. He'll want to win this one for a number of reasons.
I want to ask you about Justin Holbrook and the coaching cab rank, right? So who's first in the queue? Now, Justin Holbrook, he was with the Gold Coast, and when he left, he had a 46% win rate, had got them to finals, I think, the year before, very close the year after. He's since gone and coached with Trent Robinson, so clearly his IQ of rugby league has not gone backwards. Because of what's happened since he left the Gold Coast Titans, has his stocks risen?
I don't know about risen. You sort of just look at it and go, there were reasons why there was inconsistency there, and you're still seeing it with Des. Des is trying to figure out a way to change those. Justin Holbrook, obviously went through it as well. I think Justin Holbrook is a huge shout to team up with Mel. I think, the Gold Coast connection, Mel's had ties with Gold Coast for a while. If Justin Holbrook is indeed the next cab off the rank, if he's the next coach that a lot of people were looking at to get a second chance, maybe he goes over and does a couple of years with Mel and then takes over Perth. What do you reckon?
He's got 4 young boys, and he's very settled in Sydney. I think that could happen, but it would need to be Wayne Bennett / Christian Wolf set up.
Yes, like a guarantee.
Yes.
So you come over, it's guaranteed.
I would
Mel,
think so.
I'm doing 2 years.
Yeah, Mel, kick us off for 2 years, and I'll take the third. I reckon you'd get him then.
What if Mel says, I want 3, and you'll take over year 4? You'd probably stay, wouldn't you? You'd stay at the Roosters.
I'd stay at the Roosters.
Yeah, so would I.
Yeah, so if it's in Mal's best interest to get someone like Justin Holbrook there, but you'd want to, dangle the carrot. So someone like Justin, who he's a great fella, he's going to be a great coach. There's no doubt about that. So there you go. Blue Wealth Property, Australia's leading property research and investment education company. Rabbitohs take on the Bulldogs, 63,000 or thereabouts on that Easter Monday. They won't get the 60-odd. There's some big stars out, but it is Galvin's first game starting in the side. Accor Stadium, huge crowd there. Also on Monday when they took on the Parramatta Eels, Matty Burton, 18th man for Origin, so he cannot play. Campbell Graham will keep an eye on him. What sort of crowd do we get at Accor, all being a perfect day?
Yeah, I'm hoping we get, I'll be calling that game out there on Sunday, so I'm hoping we get north of 25.
Beautiful.
Yeah, north of 25. I think, anywhere between 25 to 30. I know we're missing the Origin stars. Galvin, it'll be a big watch for him. And could this game, if he has a huge game, when Matt Burton comes back, does he cement that spot in the halves with him?
Well, that's the question, right? So does Galvin leave the starting side for the rest of the year?
So here's the tricky part for the Dogs, and this is going to take a huge job for Cameron Serrato to manage it. the Dogs are not only playing against the Rabbitohs, there are people within the Dogs playing against each other for positions.
That's right.
And that's good. Iron sharpens iron, can work on occasion. But once you are the number one team and you're at the top of the ladder and you get something like this, it'll take... he's going to be put to the test. His credentials as a coach, Cireldo, and how he manages this situation.
Very pleased to say, folks, former Wallaby, he scored, what about this, Scopey? 878 points in 81 tests. He won the 1999 World Cup. Stan Sport rugby expert, rugby legend, Matty Burke. Welcome to the Run Home with Joel and Scope.
Joel, I'm going to hang up now, mate. That intro is just good enough, all right?
I'll tell you what's good enough.
Let's wrap it up.
Matty Burke, can see here, Scopey. What am I drinking right now?
Coffee?
Yeah, is it a bought one or a made one?
It is a made one.
You've got the made one.
Yes.
Love it.
And you know who taught me how to do the made one, Berkey? Your good
Who
self.
has taught you how to do the made one, Joel?
So you taught me how to do the best made instant coffee. Can you share with the listeners what that formula is?
It came from a long, long time ago, and it's basically throw your coffee into a cup with a little bit of sugar, a little bit of milk, like about maybe like a quart of milk, chuck in the microwave for about 35 seconds. Stir it up, and then add your little bit of hot water. Not all the way to the top, just enough. And I'll tell you what, it's like a bought one.
Yep, there you go. So Berkey, this doyen, this icon of Australian rugby and Australian sport, taught me this. But Berkey, let's talk about the Rara Brumbies in the semi-finals. They've had a terrific tournament so far, 35-28 last week over the Hurricanes. Now, before we get on to them, a little bit of controversy around. I actually quite like it. But you don't necessarily have to win to make this semi-final, do you?
Yeah, it was an interesting one. It's a work in progress. Joel, it was a top six finish for the Super Rugby Pacific this year: 1v6, 2v5, 3v4, and you're expecting it to go the right way for 1 and 2 to get that home semi-final. But the Blues threw the curveball in there last week and beat the Chiefs, who were 1v6. So they are now playing the Crusaders tonight. They'll teeing off in not too long a time. And so all of a sudden, with a miss a couple of weeks back now, there was a controversial knock-on in the Brumbies Crusaders game, and that then by default in the third spot. So they still get the home, what was a quarter, they call it like a qualifying quarter, but they missed out on that home semi. But, tonight is a big one. The Blues, I reckon, could maybe do a little bit of damage to the Crusaders at home. Crusaders have an incredible record, but tomorrow obviously is the big one for the Aussies. And when you look back on week one and the squad they had and what they produced, you always knew that Brumbies were going to be a really good outfit and go deep into the finals. They've got a really good squad, well coached, a lot of cohesion there, and it's to be expected. Reds had a good crack, but the Brumbies, should I say, are flying the flag for Australian rugby.
Yeah, Matt. Brumbies coach Stephen Larkham, he's come out and said, they're peaking at the right time. If the Brumbies are to win, who's the player who has to stand up tomorrow, mate? Is it Matty Wright at the back? Who else should we be watching for? Yeah,
he's had an incredible year. Interesting. He's only scored the one try this year. He scored 10 last year. He's had so many assists this year. It's been a big part of his game. He pops up in the right spots and offloading. I reckon back row is going to be huge. Valentini, is the John Eales medalist of the last couple of years. He's an incredible body around the field. It's just so destructive in attack and also defence. So, they have the ability to play this power game, which is, very much Brumbies-esque. Their scrum is good. Their line-out is good. They can drive it over and score tries from a rolling maul. But they have this ability to be slick in the back line, and they've got plays, up their sleeve that they can throw out there. So, look, it's going to be on. They come up against a pretty red-hot Chiefs outfit who stumbled literally on the 81st minute last week. They've got a guy there called Damien McKenzie who's red-hot. If you go back to Waratah's Chiefs this year, Waratah's did a really good job of shutting him down. He had a really poor game. And I think that's going to be the focus tonight for the Brumbies if they're going to get on top of this Chiefs out tomorrow night. So, pardon me, they've got to shut down Damien McKenzie. So that's easier said than done when they've got so many other good players around the park there. But this Brumbies outfit have got, they can fire shots across the park too. So I think it's going to be a fantastic game.
Chatting with rugby legend Matty Burke. Hey, Burkey, is the grand final set in stone, or is that also dependent upon table finish?
Table finishing. So if there is an upset tonight with the Blues overtaking the Chiefs, and the Brumbies win against the Blues overtaking the Crusaders, and the Brumbies get the win over the Chiefs, the Brumbies will then host because they finished higher on the ladder. So it's a bit of a convoluted number. I'm sure they're going to look at it again next year and try and find perhaps a fairer way. But if you're going to win and be crowned champions, you've got to beat everyone under all conditions. So you mentioned before about Bernie Larkham saying they've peaked at the right time. They had good buys in amongst strategically. So after I think it was 6 games and after 11 games, and they just had that nice little freshen up to come into the back end of the season and then literally in the final. So hopefully, cross fingers, we get an Aussie team firing in the finals next week.
Hey, Berkey, now your colleagues at Stan Sport fired this right up, the suggestion or rumour around Nathan Cleary heading to rugby. In the fair income stakes, though, like in his whole life, he has been a rugby league player essentially. Nathan
Correct.
Cleary, if he was to go to rugby, and there's been recent chat around Andre Ponga, maybe Kalen Ponga going to rugby, are they bona fide lay-down misères to absolutely kill it or not so?
I don't think so, Joel. We've always chatted, when the kids have been playing at touch footy competitions, that kind of stuff, and it's always the debate. I mean, you run, you pass, you make your tackles, you make your positional plays, and those guys are exceptional. But the game is just so different. The ability to understand what to do in certain situations doesn't come naturally. And I played with Rogers, DeCurie, Saylor. And those 3 boys, they struggled learning the game. They got it in the end. It took them a long time to actually get the grasp of it as well. And the difficulty about it is, guys we've seen in the past, Benji Marshall go across, Roger Tuivasa-Sheck go across, even Tamana Tahu. They had a crack. They didn't really excel to what they thought they were going to do. Apart from the other part of it, the other side of it is, if there was the reckoning of him coming across to rugby union, I don't think Australian rugby could afford it. I don't think it would be the right call to pick him up when you've got to look at grassroots and sort of, the young talent coming through. If it's a $1.5 million deal, imagine you'd be able to secure, sort of 7 or 8 young guys on that, for example, on really good coin. If he did go, it would be French rugby, it would be Japanese rugby. We're seeing Joey Manu do the same thing. Is he going well over there at the moment? I don't quite know. We haven't really heard about him too much. Would a Kalen Ponga walk into an All Black side? I don't think so. I mean, the blokes that are playing there at the moment have got incredible skill, and they've got history. They've got the cohesion of playing. So, look, it's always that great debate, isn't it? The skills are unparalleled in the game at the moment. Can they transfer those skills? That is the 64. Well, it's not even 64. It's a $1.5 million question, isn't it? If they come across.
Hey, Berkey, I promised you the last league-related question, but this is a hypothetical, and you're a Northern Beaches guy, so you know the Trbojevic boys quite well, and Manly are in discussions with them, and Tom has come out and said, look, he does never, ever want to play against Manly, so therefore Super League would be an option. I don't think Super League would be in the market for Tom. As a hypothetical, because this guy is a gifted guy, what sort of money could a Tom Trbojevic command if he went to European rugby, Matt Burke?
Yeah, that's the go, isn't it? I finished up my career in 2008, and that's when the money was just starting to kick off overseas and in Europe, and it's a real option because you talk to guys like Mark Gasnier, for example, who went over to Paris and played at Stade Francais and had a great time doing it. Saw the sights, learned the language, and came back. The difficulty again is the understanding of the language barrier to start with.
Yep.
And it is ruthless over there as well. If you don't perform, they literally just send you on the flight home and they wash your hands off you. Again, it would be it's $1 million, I imagine, because of what he's been able to do and his resume in rugby league. When you're looking at guys like that, it would be high hundreds to $1 million bucks. There's lots of pressure on you though. You know what I mean? I remember when Joe Roth went across there. He had a sabbatical. He was one of the first ones to go across. He went down to Barrett's, and one week he was the hero. The next, and walking down the main corso, and they're giving him fruit and vegetables and meat and that kind of stuff. Literally the next week they were spitting on him because he had a poor game. So it is fickle over there as well. So look, it's always up for grabs. I could see where he's coming from about being sort of that loyalty factor and always wearing the maroon and white. But sometimes you have to rewrite your own legacy at a different club. And I understand he's passionate. He doesn't want to sort of go against Manly, but if there's options to go elsewhere, good luck to him because he's a tremendous player. He's got great skill, great ability. Same thing again. Where could he transfer? He might be able to transfer in that sort of outside centre, fullback, winger role. Yep. But again, there's nuances of understanding where to go, where to run, who to tackle, that kind of stuff. So, look, if he does decide to go, tell him to give me a call. I'm only taking 12% these days.
Okay. Yeah, Matty, we got a huge tour coming up. The British and Irish Lions are coming over.
Yeah.
Joseph Suaalii came out and made a huge statement saying this will be the biggest game that he's ever played in. Considering we're in Origin for rugby league as well, mate. But this is just huge for Australian rugby, and this is going to be such a big occasion over here, mate.
Yeah, I can see where he's coming from. I mean, I played 24 years ago when we won. We lost the first in Brisbane, won the second in Melbourne and Sydney. And when you put that on your sort of your piece of paper of ticking the box, and I was fortunate enough to win Bledisloe and World Cups. I think this was probably the most intense, if that's the word. You've got to understand it's 4 teams coming together to combine to one sort of super team, if you call that. The biggest difficulty they have is about the cohesion of getting together. In saying that, their coach has chosen a stack of Irish. There's about 13 Irish guys coming across here, which is, all of a sudden you've got the basis of a team and you sort of dot other people around it. But it's an intense 3 weeks when they play back-to-back test matches. They have a game, I think it's this weekend against Argentina, then they're on the flight and they play the Force to start with only in not too long a time. And end of the month, and then they're into it. Then they make their way across to the east, and they've got the test matches on. And look, it's a really great opportunity for Australian rugby to then thrive and get behind the green and gold, because you remember this only happens once every 12 years. They dot in between South Africa and New Zealand every 4, and Australia. So it's been a while coming, and we lost the last one 2-1. We got pumped in the last game. So there's a little bit of revenge there, but history doesn't really mean anything. It's a right here, right now. And Joseph, I saw him the other day. He's looking fit. He's big and strong. He hasn't played a great deal of rugby this year, so it might help him. Be fresh for this upcoming series. It's going to be fantastic.
Matty Burke, we must get to a break, mainly because that coffee solution you tipped me is starting to get a bit cold. I need to finish it off. But seriously, though, Burkey, the Brumbies, they're the mission number 1 at the moment. They fly the flag for Australia tomorrow, 4:30. They take on the Chiefs. That's the only team that stand between them and a spot in the Super Rugby Pacific Grand Final. Live, on demand, on Stan Sport, and also available on 9GM. Thank you very much, Matty Burke. We appreciate your time on the run home.
Go on, you boys. Have a good weekend.
What a gem. I tell you what, Scopey, I'm looking forward to our next guest because he is an avid fan of rugby league, but he is an avid fan and superstar of the game of cricket. And I'm pleased to say the Thunder, the Sydney Thunder General Manager, Mr. Trent Copeland, joins the run home with Joel and Fletch with Scopey in the chair today. Copes, how are you, mate?
Going well, boys. How are we?
Mate, busy time for you. I know the general public tickets for the summer cricket are on sale now, so people can get around that. We're looking forward to that. We've got the rivals India coming to town, and of course it is going to be the biggest one yet, we think. How's life for you, young man?
Yeah, it is massive, mate. And let's start there. Those pre-sale tickets, I had family members, people in the UK even, talking about the pre-sale allocation that basically it was like Taylor Swift tickets. They were that hot last week trying to get on. So today, the broader tickets on sale, but India men and women South Africa. The Ashes is going to be epic. I mean, Bazball up against our Aussies. We're watching them in the World Test Championship at the moment. So it's about as good as it gets. So I'm pumped. And then we've got a Big Bash to win as well. WBBL and Big Bash.
Yeah,
so,
Cape. Sorry, mate.
Busy time.
Yeah, Cape. So much cricket happening on at the moment, mate. But why don't we start off with the World Test Championship? Tell us about the pitch over there and the conditions, mate, because it's definitely suiting the bowlers. Australia currently lead South Africa by 218 runs with two wickets remaining.
Yeah, I mean, I want to really centre the focus on Pat Cummins, to be honest. He is unbelievable. The Aussies, both bowling groups really have been outstanding in this match, and I think all the cricketers that are playing, particularly in the batting order, that have come off white ball T20 cricket have been a little exposed by how good these groups are. But Paddy Cummins, our skipper, taking 6 for last night, going to 300 test wickets, one of very few people to have done it. I was there in Joburg when he debuted, and then I was with him a little bit of the way on that journey in the 4 to 5 year absence out of the game with his back stuff that he had, and he's blossomed into just an absolute superstar. And he's got us in a good position last night, but we've got a bit of work to do. The pitch is offering a bit. We probably could have been bowled out last night, and we're going to have to back it up and bowl bloody well in the second innings.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit more about the form of the batsmen and sort of the underwhelming results from both, the batsmen from both teams. Is it more to do with the conditions, or is it, the different formats in the first sort of crack at Test cricket in a while?
Yeah, probably both. I think if you think about all of our group that are over there, what have they just come from? It's the middle of our off season. They're not playing regular cricket other than T20 at the IPL. So all these guys, typically when we view them over our home summer and they're in such good nick, they've come off 3 to 4 Shield games. All of the guys are playing 50 over cricket at a minimum. So I think that's played its role. But, man, there's some guys under pressure in the Australian order. And then Bo Webster doing fantastically well in the first innings, and Alex Carey again, crucial runs last night. So our lower order, which hasn't had to do much in the past, they've really come good in this game and at least got us in the contest.
Coach, this bloke, Captain Paddy Cummins, he finished with 6 for 28 from 18 overs. Now that becomes the best bowling figures by captain at Lords. We have spoken about Paddy, but to do that at Lords, you as a player, Trent Copeland, if you could go back and have one innings and present yourself as part of an attacking cartel for Australia, what ground would you love to do that at? Is it Lords?
Yeah, look, it probably is either there or Cape Town. That place is magic as well. But Lords, the history, the culture of that joint, and Paddy to do it there. And a couple of days earlier, Steve Smith, the most runs ever at Lords as well. So from an opposing or opposition travelling team. So we've got some special guys in this group. I find it really difficult to judge, and I'm sure you blokes are the same with footy. And how do we compare eras and immortals versus now? I find it really difficult just to grasp how good Pat Cummins and Steve Smith and these guys all are. It's really difficult because they're special, but are they the best we've ever seen? Maybe. They're that good.
Well, that's the argument, right? So for every argument you'd have that the modern day player had this in their advantage, the former player had this in their advantage or disadvantage, with rugby league, Copes, my simple thing is that if you go back, so most of our mortals, and it is no disrespect to them, but we have these supreme athletes, the Fijians, the Polynesians. It's a different landscape to what it was, Scopey.
Yeah.
Do you agree with that?
Fair. Yeah, that's fair.
So an immortal back in the day, and the 5 metre rule and the 10 metre rule. So you can only measure, I think, Copes, what you did against that group at the time. Yeah,
I agree with you. And the often comparison that comes up at the moment is Don Bradman and guys like A.B. de Villiers, Virat Kohli, and more recently Steve Smith. It's just so difficult. Uncovered wickets, different time, bowling advancements weren't maybe the same, but also Steve dealing with T20 cricket as a format that wasn't there back when Bradman played. What complexities does that offer? Does it help him? Does it help him score quicker? None of us will ever know that, so I try and stay out of it. I just think he's amazing we're witnessing greatness, and there's no need to draw a direct comparison.
Well, rather than going back, Capes, we'll go forward. We'll go the future of Australian cricket. I know you've got obviously a great relationship with Sam Constas due to the Thunder. Firstly, I had the real privilege of emceeing a golf day with Sammy at the start of the year. What a great kid. The way he interacted with everyone at the golf day was for a Red Nose charity golf day. So big tick for him, mate. Is there any, what's the rumours going around? Is there anything with, both Marnus and Aussie sort of struggling a little bit at the top of the order? Is there any chat around seeing Sammy in the Test Championships?
Well, we all saw what he did last year, didn't we, on Boxing Day? And that really was an out-of-body experience for Sam, because
it was for us as well.
Exactly. And being in the joint in Melbourne, luckily, and being able to witness it firsthand, the hysteria that came off the back of it was unlike anything I've really seen. But he is very much a traditional, really compact, good defensive unit, traditional Test player that has a temperament and a hunger for runs that, Phil Hughes used to have, and guys like Ed Cowan used to have. And so he is a modern day phenom, but he's also got that type of backing behind him. So I think that once he does get his shot full time, he's going to be a guy that sticks for a long period of time. Will it come in the West Indies? That's probably the question. Or will it be in the home summer against England in the Ashes? It's a matter of when for me, not if. And you're absolutely right, Scope. The person that he is, anytime he played for the Thunder last year, he was the first to the ground, just keen to play. But he was the guy, when it was pouring rain in a washed-out match, he was out there for hours signing autographs, taking selfies. He's a modern-day cricketer in all aspects, yeah.
And he also gave us I interviewed him on stage too.
Yeah.
He gave us a great insight into the little battle with Bumrah and Kohli too. Yeah, mate. And it was unfiltered because it was in a controlled room. It was really good. It was good chat.
And Copes, you did a great interview with him personally as well, with your background with him there on Channel 7. Copes, I want to ask you this, and it's maybe a little bit unfair, this question, but if you had to guess where Constas finishes up, his comparison would be whom? So he finishes up with a career that aligns with who, would you say?
Oh, man, that's tough.
Gut feel, you're not held to it. What's your gut?
Yeah, my gut is, and it goes back to that, say, Steve Smith in the T20 conversation, where in the past there's not been that on the table. But I think we're probably looking at someone that goes down that road of where Travis Head has got to at the moment, fused with a David Warner in terms of all format success. At the top of the order, but in the style of a Travis Head, plays with freedom. And I mean, if he gets anywhere near those two, it's a bloody lofty height. So I hope he's on that trajectory. And that's kind of anyone who's interacted with him, played against him, seen him score runs, thinks that's the journey he's on.
I reckon the Constas family will be nodding and saying, yep, we'll take that. Absolutely. What about your job now, Cope? So you're behind this desk, which is the Thunder, the general manager of the Thunder. And look, there's a fair bit of time between the BBL now, but there's a lot to work between now and then. Take us to the life of a general manager there at the Thunder. You're not just sitting there twiddling your thumbs. What's the big things on your whiteboard that you need to conquer?
Yeah, well, we've got the WBBL and the BBL draft next week, mate. So as soon as we come out of the season, we're in contracting times. I'm also accountable for the broader budget of the whole club. So ticket sales, event, people and culture, community activity, fan engagement. So it's just a different busy when we're not playing cricket. And then this last month or so leading into the draft next week, and it'll be on 7 and 7+, I reckon, Wednesday, the 19th. It's like our biggest thing of the year when it comes to, we've done all our work domestically. We've built our squad for that core function. Now, how do we plug the gaps with the best players in the world? Those overseas players. And we're lucky to have Chamari Adapatu and Sam Billings at the Thunder as our pre-signs, locked in for multiple years. Now we're going to work on opposition analysis, trading picks, who do we bring in, what's their availability like. Mate, I'm an absolute nuffy, so I'm building out these strategies I live in the American sports world in my
Yeah.
head, so yeah, I'm pretending I'm John Lynch at the 49ers and I'm mapping out strategy.
Hey, Copes, just on that, right? So it is fascinating. I love the concept. It is the but the BBL draft is on the 19th, so that's 6 days away that you talk about. You've got the final pick of round one. So how do you plan for that? Clearly, there's players you go, okay, well, if we had to bracket 5 players we want, we're not even thinking about this guy because we know he goes 1, 2, or 3. How many people do you have to narrow it down to that you would like to sign?
Yeah. Well, it's a good question. I mean, and this is where I probably go a little further than most, is that I try and take out any assumptions.
Yep.
We build out draft boards and mock drafts, what we think oppositions will do, their greatest needs, things like that. So we have a good idea on who might go. But for every pick I have, say pick 8 in round 1, I'm going to have 10 players on my board as a depth chart so that there's no confusion or hysteria in the moment. We had 5 players, then the 5th one's there on the table, the pick before us, then it goes. Then you got 60 to 90 seconds to make a choice. And if you're flustered, then you're cooked. So I try and, build it out. And we've done the work over multiple months to sort of, both male and female, have good depth charts built. What risks do we have? And then we've got retentions as well. So, we might pick someone and then someone else might be able to retain them, and we've got to then come up with another choice. So it's good fun. I love all this stuff. It's great.
Yeah, Copes, you said you're John Lynch. Do you have a Shanahan with you, mate? Do you have someone? Do you have someone that you can lean on that make the decisions, or are you making are you making all the strong decisions yourself?
Well, we do have good teams around us. So I, in a male context, like Davey Warner, Trevor Bayliss, all the coaches, and we have an analyst as well. And same in the female space with Lisa Kitely, Phoebe Litchfield and the like. So there's good teams formulating consensus decisions, but ultimately it's, on the day, it's me that's got to push the button and I've got to sit behind those decisions. So I like to, make sure I believe in it.
Okay, so it's a bit like Sean the Trader had a baby recently, and we know the sex is a boy, but we can't be told the name. I want to ask you this, Copes. Are you locked in at the very least to your number one pick? You've got the last pick in the draft as being a batsman, a bowler, or an out-and-out all-rounder. Are you absolutely locked into that? So on your depth chart, is your number one pick one of those 3 things?
No, it's not that rigid.
Wow.
It'll be fluid based off how the draft board unfolds in front of us.
Yep.
And we've got options at 8 that mean we could go probably one of 2 of those ways.
Gotcha.
So without giving too much away, that's what I would like us to always be, is fluid, to have options, choice, and then, on that, if we go one of those 2 ways, say it's an all-rounder at pick 8, then that has a direct flow chart, and we build out, at pick 8 all-rounder means that we've got this plan as our second round onwards. That's the type of thing. And if we were to go a bowler or a batter, we've got that flow chart built out as well that has the depth chart built underneath it, choice modelling after that type of stuff. So
Beautiful.
Yeah, it's cool. It's good fun.
All right. Well, I think we'll just chat about the Ashes then coming up as well, Coach. I know you mentioned it before, but how huge do you reckon the Ashes is going to be coming up this year as well?
Yeah, well, just lastly on the draft, you watch me with all that prep, butcher it next week. So yeah, it'll be good fun.
I can't wait to watch it, Coach.
Before we move off, Coach, because me and the boys in here, we've been talking about our NFL fantasy drafts too. You got me excited because I feel like I want to be a part of it. We've always talked about it for years. Could we do it in rugby league? How good would it be to just be sitting there as the GM, have your draft board out,
the mid-year draft,
Nathan Cleary right up the top, pick 1.1 if you can get him,
yep,
and then you figure out everything else from that. It's you got me going actually,
mate. The NRL, there is something there at the start of June, Copes, where you go, okay, if people are prepared to let them go for the rest of the year, maybe there is huge dispensations when it comes to the cap. But he's a mad rugby league man as well, Scopey. We can't just take. He likes his super coach and that. What would you give him? What player should Cope sign when it comes to rugby league for his teams or those listening who love their super coach?
Ooh, so it'd be a player currently now.
I reckon Fletcher Hunt.
Fletcher Hunt.
Fletcher Hunt.
Do you think Newcastle? He's a good prospect. I don't think Newcastle would be keen to let him go. Put him into a draft. Is that?
Yeah, well, he's
is that how
certainly
it
not
works?
going to the Big Bash draft.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
No, I'm saying that that's a bloke on the rise, mate.
Yeah.
This kid, Sharp's out of the contest, Ponga's out of the contest, great competitor. Anyway, Coach, we're taking you far too long. You're very, very busy. You've got a game in 8 months, so we should get off the phone. Good on you, Copes.
Righto, you lot. No worries. Have a good arvo. Thanks for chatting.